and welcome to another edition of Behind the Mask, where we go a little deeper into the personal side of leaders who are driving transformation in healthcare. So, with me today is a friend of mine, Onyeka, and oh my gosh, I'm gonna blow it. I can't do it.
I love it. I love it.
Tell us your last name.
Nchege,
And
Onyeka Nchege.
I write these things out phonetically,
Right.
and I just struggle. So I'm sorry about that, but we're gonna keep this in because
Ed, you're good, man. You're good
yeah.
all day.
But I'm really excited to speak to you. You're obviously SVP CIO over at Novant, but more than that, you're a servant leader, and that's really what I wanted to talk about today because I've known you and known of you, before you ended up
Right.
when you were part of the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex
Yeah.
community of tech leaders, and so yeah, right before we jump in, tell us a little bit. I think most people know about Novant, but just tell us a little bit about your role at Novant.
Yeah. So Ed, thank you. I appreciate that. I've been looking forward to connecting with you for this conversation. So I'm glad we were able to make that happen. Yeah, Novant Health, Novant Health is a not-for-profit healthcare system, operates in North Carolina, South Carolina, and we're about a $8 billion, call it 40,000 employees or so. Um, it's a great organization that's run by a fantastic executive leadership team and board of trustees. And I have the pleasure of serving as the chief information officer for Novant Health. Obviously, within my role, it is all about stewardship. Honestly, it's stewarding the team members that are within Novant Health, but also reaching out into the other parts of our organization. And I always say stewardship because it's more than just people. It's also technology, it's solutions, it's digital, right? How do you steward all of the things that we use to provide remarkable care, remarkable experiences? We always say at Novant Health, we create healthier futures and bring to life remarkable experiences. So my role as the CIO is, quite frankly, just being able to enable all of that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, and Avant, really great reputation for quality care and
Yeah.
so innovation and transformation. So that's cool. So tell us, at what age did you realize you were a leader?
Oh, wow. At what age
Yeah,
did I realize I was a leader? That's an interesting question. I don't know that I could put an age to it. I would have to go all the way back to my father, who for years on end, when I was, they always say knee high, he would always say to me and my brother and my siblings, that the heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight but while their companions slept, were toiling upwards in the night. It's a Longfellow. It's a
yeah,
Longfellow poem, right? And that has always stuck with me.
yeah,
And so as we would make our way through, my father would always say, "You're an Nchege. Don't ever forget you're an Nchege." And that meant leadership.
yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
So I always interpreted that as leadership, right? Because when you think about leadership, it's all about how you carry yourself, how you present yourself, how you care for others, how you take care of others. And so I don't know that I'd put an age to it, but at some point, all of those teachings translated into many years later, the role that I sit in today, the position that I sit in today, the place that I sit in today.
Yes, and sounds like a great dad as well.
That's
Uh,
my dude.
tell me about Nchega. What's the ethnic background?
It's Nigerian. I'm originally from Nigeria, from the Igbo tribe, and so that's where my father's from. My mother's from Alabama. My father met her when he came to the U.S. to go to school, to get an education. They got married, had four kids, moved back to Nigeria, I grew up there, and then I came as you got old enough. My father would want you to come to the States to get an American education, just like he did. And so my siblings and I had an opportunity to come over to the U.S. And over time, my parents moved back here to the U.S. And so it's been good.
Yeah, that is cool. It's awesome being part of a multicultural family. I have the same benefit.
Yeah.
My wife and my upbringing out of Europe, and so I think it's really strong. What was the biggest reason you chose healthcare over, I say it kind of funny, batteries and soda because of your background, because you made a decision for healthcare later in your career. And so
I did.
I'd love to
I
hear about
did. I'll tell you. So I have a personal passion, mission to impact lives in a positive manner. It's just something that's innate in me. And so as I was working, to your point, soda, batteries, automotive. Um, I got a call from the Novant Health executive team, and had an opportunity to talk through what that would mean. And Ed, I'll be honest with you, right? Not coming from not having a healthcare pedigree, if you will, one of the questions I had was why me, right? And why? Because I had always heard, right, that if to break into healthcare, you have to kind of grown up in the healthcare space. And so for me, it was just an opportunity to be able to, as my CEO at Toyota said to Toyota Industries Commercial Finance said to me, you have a choice. Make you can make forklifts, or you could go save lives. Go save a life, right? And so that's kind of what led me down that path. And knowing that one of those lives could be my father, right? Well, my parents. My father had Parkinson's disease at the time, and so 4 years ago, I had an opportunity to join the healthcare system, and knowing that I could also be impacting his life as well. So that was exciting for me.
Yeah, no, very cool. And I'm a big believer in bringing people from the outside because
Yep,
it's the only way that we're really going to push and transform.
it is absolutely.
So I know faith is important to you. How does it manifest itself in your leadership?
Yeah, faith in my leadership. So for me, faith in my leadership probably shows up in it unorthodox, but it's love. It shows up as love. And what do I mean by that? It's love in terms of caring for the folks that I interact with, I meet, I talk to, that I have an opportunity to lead, right? It's caring for them, right? So I was taught a while back that you want to care for people, not take care of them,
Yeah,
right? And so I have always practiced that from a faith perspective. How do I care for the folks that are put in front of me? And the care could be something as simple as taking the time to listen to them, right? Because then I have an opportunity to maybe impart something to them that they may not have heard of, seen, right? So I have an opportunity to evangelize in a very simple way, right? So, for example, I remember when I was at the battery organization, one of my team members, one of my direct reports, was going to have some surgery done. And I remember, we were talking about it as a leadership team, and right when we finished, I just said, "Hey, listen, do you mind if I pray?"
yeah,
Right? And at that point, they have a choice. They can say yes, they can say no, right?
yeah,
But she said yes, and so the others gathered around, and we had an opportunity to do that. So I think that's how it manifests itself for me is the opportunity to bring that authentic love, right? And be able to show that not perfect, not by any stretch of the imagination, but um, that's how it shows up for me, right? Being able to witness, being able to, and for me, the witness is about how I show up, right?
yes,
It isn't about did you know, did you know, did you know, but it's about how I show up, right? So, and because of that, I'm cognizant of what I say, how I say it, right? Because I want, truthfully, I want God to increase in me and me to decrease, right? Especially when folks are paying attention.
Yeah.
And then especially even the more when you sit in a role like the one I sit in, it's all eyes on you,
Right.
right? And so then it matters even more in my mind because you represent something. So,
For sure. Did that faith come through your parents, or is it something that you picked up later in life?
so I think a little bit of both, right? So, my parents were spiritual. They weren't necessarily religious, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense. And so it wasn't about go to a church, go to, right, as much as it was, this is how we live and this is who we believe in, right? But then as I got older, I met my wife, Yolanda, and she invited me to church with her. And I had an opportunity to experience spirituality from a different lens, and it grew from there as I accepted Christ, and it just kind of grew from there for me.
Yeah, that's cool. What's one thing that most of your coworkers might not know about you that you can share with us?
One thing that coworkers might not know about me. Oh wow, that's a good one. Um, I'd have to give that one some thought because I'm pretty transparent
I think so.
with my folks. So I'm trying to think of the one thing that they may not know about me. Um, oh wow, yeah, I got to give that one some thought.
Oh yeah, yeah. We can come back and
Yeah,
we
we'll have to come back to that one. I'm sure there is something. Make no mistake. I just got to think about what it is that I wouldn't because I'm trying to think. I don't want to say something that I may have shared with one person, but not
yeah,
all, because then there's someone, a
yeah,
coworker knows about it, right? So I'm trying to think of something that I would not have shared with
yeah.
anyone.
I know
Yeah,
that
think about
for
that.
for a person like yourself, who's very authentic and transparent. Yeah, there might not be something, but yeah, we'll check. We'll
We'll
check.
come back to that.
So, would you say there's a defining moment in your career? So, was there one particular thing that maybe happened, a catalyst along the way that sort of put you in a different trajectory, or helped get you to where you are today?
Wow, another great question. I should have looked those up. Uh, so trajectory. What is the maybe one thing? So I think I can look back over my career, and there's probably milestones, I'm going to call them,
Yeah,
that were probably trajectories of some to some degree. I'll just go probably with the latest one. And again, transparently, I several years back, um, I made an error in judgment. Made an error in judgment, and that's really what it was. Just an error, just a stupid bonehead error in judgment. And it cost me my job. Um, I remember going in and saying, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna resign. Give me the opportunity to resign. I'll walk away." And through that process, it gave me it gave me a chance to rethink. And I got to be honest with you, it's one of those things where it's going to sound crazy, but it's true. God said, "I got you.
yeah,
Just let go. I got you. Go in, tell him, walk out. I got you. It'll be fine." And I did. And the next couple of years felt like I was wandering around in the wilderness. I got to be honest,
yeah,
to the point where I was like, "Okay, God, where are you at? Where are you at, man? You said it would be good. Where are you at?"
yeah.
And all of a sudden, and I look back and I realize, had that not happened,
Yep.
this wouldn't have happened. Had that not happened, that wouldn't have happened. Had that not happened, you wouldn't have been at Toyota. Had that not happened, you wouldn't have been at interstate batteries. Had that not happened, you wouldn't have been at Novant Health, right? So I can look back and go, okay, I can
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. Tell me about a time that maybe someone tried to hold you back in your career, or it could be in personal side too. And what did you do about it?
Someone tried to hold me back. Yeah, that's gonna be another hard one for me because I don't know that I that someone's and maybe that's possible that someone tried to hold me back, honestly. But I don't know that it was a hold back in
Yeah.
that sense. Um, I don't think of it in terms of someone was trying to hold me back, or even in my personal life. I think folks do things that may not always be in line with what I would have wanted them to do. But the question, I guess your question is, how do you deal with that? I think for me, I just try to ask myself, and I don't always do a good job of it, but I always try to ask myself, what's the intent,
Yeah.
right? What was the person's intent in what they did, and why they did that? And you know, I think if I can understand what the intent was, then I'm able to move forward. But I'm also a water off my back kind of guy.
Yeah.
And so, my wife is always on me about you just don't recognize when people are trying to do wrong. Everybody does right in your eyes. And I'm like, no, it's not that they do right. It's just that I choose to look at things in a different light. So I don't tend to focus. And that's what it is. I just don't tend to focus on that.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, I just kind of sidestep and go, okay, right, we got to take a different turn. um, but that's I don't know. That's how I think about it.
I kind of roll the same way.
Yeah,
How long have you been married now?
25 years.
All right.
Well,
Congratulations.
actually, 26 now. 26 years.
If you had to boil it down to one thing, so listeners who are sort of struggling in their marriage and
Yeah,
you've been there 25, 26 years, probably hasn't been perfect.
not at all.
What's one thing that might help someone?
The one thing that I think would might help someone, man, love your partner, because that's the one thing. And I know, people always go, I want to be in love, and
Mm,
that's great. Just love the person unconditionally. And I think if we can do that, and that's lessons learned for me. So let me just be totally honest with you.
yeah,
Lesson learned for me, love your partner, love your spouse, whoever it is. But at the same time, um, learn to communicate with
yeah,
each other. And it took me a long time to figure that one out. And so yeah, love them.
yeah,
Unconditional love, I think, is important to me because what sparked you yesterday may not be there tomorrow, right? And you still gotta love them.
yeah,
And so I think that's the thing for me.
yeah. Yeah, I like that. And people in our audience and ourselves, we're high performers, usually in
Right.
challenging roles. And so I think you have to be extra vigilant,
You
in your
do. You do.
purpose.
It's fan the flames.
Yeah,
If you've ever heard that before. You gotta keep the flame
yeah.
going, right? And so you have to understand what does it take to fan that flame, right? What it took yesterday might be something different tomorrow. But so you have to continually figure out how you fan the flame.
So along these lines, if you were invited, you probably have, and I just didn't find it in my research, but you were you were speaking at the college graduation of your alma mater. What's one thing that you would tell the graduates in terms of what parts of life specifically that you should relish? Um, so in addition to, typical career advice that you might give, but like
Yeah.
something you should really relish.
So something you should relish. It's twofold for me, and I can say this as I just had this conversation with my 23-year-old and my 22-year-old. We have four kids, as a matter of fact. I have a 30, 29, 23, and 22. And I just had this conversation with my 23-year-old. in my 22 years. And I was telling them, because they're just starting their careers out. They both out of college, like 1 or 2 years out of college, and doing their thing. And I said to them, the first 25 years, and I heard this from a pastor, and I really like it, so I've hung on to it for years, and I still use it. Your first 25 years, life, you just those are your learning years, right? And you can, if you're going to make a mistake, you need to make them in your first 25 years, right? Because life is forgiving during that time frame. And so it's if you're going to fail fast, fail right early, all that kind of stuff. And then the next 25 years are your building years, right? So whatever you've learned in the first 25, you use the next 25 to build, et cetera. And so the one thing I always say to folks is enjoy the journey. I think and slow down long enough to actually appreciate the journey. I tell my sons this all the time. Learn to appreciate the journey because you're going so fast to whatever it is that you believe is next that when you get there, you look back and go, I don't even remember how I got there, right?
Mhm.
Because you didn't enjoy the journey as you were on your way there. And it sounds simplistic, but time, and as you know, this time flies, right? And you don't get to reclaim any of that,
Yes.
right? You don't get to reclaim any of that. And so you have to appreciate it as you go along, because and you don't want to wait till you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, and go, man, I remember those days or whatever it is, right? And so that's the thing that I would say is just appreciate the journey as you go along, and don't be in a hurry to get to that next
Yeah.
place. It will come in time, God willing.
Yeah.
But appreciate where you are, appreciate the moment where you are, because it does not come back around.
Yeah. Yeah. That's sage advice. Look, we'll end with this. You started off with a Longfellow quote. What about from a scriptural point of view? Is there a scripture that, and maybe there's different ones throughout your life that were more meaningful at a specific point, um, but any scripture you want to leave us with today that you particularly enjoy?
Yeah, so from a scripture perspective, I think the one that comes to mind is 1 Corinthians 10. I want to say it's 10 and 12 or 10 and 13, where it talks about the fact that trials, tribulations, we're all going to have them,
Yeah.
and it will happen, but you got to believe that following it gets better, right?
Yeah.
Because God's got you. And so I think it's just that recognition that as we go through times, and I want to make sure I say it right, so I get it. So I'm gonna pull it up real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Um, but I think it's the knowing that there are things that we go through as humans. Yeah. So First Corinthians 10 and 13, and 10, 13, chapter 10, verse 13. Just knowing that all of us are going to go through stuff.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. But recognize that whatever it is that you are going through in the moment, if you just hold on long enough, you get to the other side of it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would say.
Yeah. No, I like that. No, I really appreciate you sharing. A lot of times people look at leaders, we talked a little bit about this, and us up on a pedestal, put you up on a
Yep.
pedestal, but we're just real normal humans, and
Regular humans, brother.
yeah, deal with same old stuff everyone else, and but also how our faith comes into play, and whether it's people of other faiths, we respect them all.
That's right.
But it's just good to hear your perspective, and sort of how your faith intersects with who you are in the workplace, and as a father, as a husband, as a man. So I appreciate you sharing and being a guest on Behind the Mask.
Well, thank you so much, Ed. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm glad we were able to make it work.
All right, thanks for joining us. That wraps up Behind the Mask.